Whenever you consider buying a business, no matter what direction you go down to do it, you're going to have to create some sort of filters to say, this is the business I want, or this is the business I don't want. And that's what we're going to cover here in this section. And we're going to talk about the different factors and considerations that you need so that you can more thoughtfully design those filters for yourself. That's just going to ensure your process is easier to conduct and that you find the right business faster. The first filtering dimension that I want you to consider is business size. Do you want a small, a medium, or a large size business? You want to consider that business size in terms of revenue, number of employees, and market share each come with their own challenges and opportunities. Larger businesses often come with more stability, but they may require more capital and management complexity. However, smaller businesses might be more flexible, but they might come with a higher level of personal involvement for yourself. So there's two questions here that I need you to think through. As a manager, are you more comfortable managing a team of 50 or more employees, or do you prefer a smaller, more manageable operation with fewer staff? What is your dream level of people to manage? And do you want to create a management structure so you're not doing all that heavy lifting yourself? In addition, I want you to think about what size of revenue is ideal for you. Are you looking for a business that generates 100,000 annual revenue, a million, 5 million? You need to have a number in mind and also some reasons behind it. When you're establishing your search criteria, I also want you to think about the potential for scalability and growth potential. Some businesses are designed to remain small, right? We're talking before about the cash ATM machines. That's never going to become the biggest industry in this country. There's a very specific need for it, and there are other industries out there that are growing so much faster. So you got to figure out where you want to play. Do you want to be niche? Do you want to be fast growing? Do you want to be solid and steady? And you want to figure out, what you want. Be clear on whether you're looking for a business that you can scale or one that will remain relatively stable in size. And that's going to impact your financial performance. It's going to impact your financial outlook. It's going to impact your mental stability throughout this process of managing this change and managing the operation day to day. If you're looking to manage a high growth business, you're going to typically have to reinvest a lot more money into it quicker versus if you get something that's more stable, you can cash flow that and take those checks and cash them and not have to worry about constantly reinvesting every dollar back into the business. So with you and your family, you need to identify what's going to work for you and plug it into your search criteria filters. The third dimension I want you to consider is location. There are geographic considerations that come into play, and you are going to need to decide on what geographic scope of your search is comfortable for you. Do you want a business that is, commutable and close to your home? Are you willing to relocate? Are you willing to travel some number of days out of the week to go to the business? The perfect business might not just be down the road, and you're going to have to make some hard decisions here. Additionally, you're going to have to consider some industries are more location dependent than others, right? Consider technology companies. There's a reason they're all typically on the West Coast near San Francisco because there's so much talent there, and there's so many different people you can network with, and there's just all these ideas going around that help you grow your business faster. If you were going to start a tech company in the middle of Ohio, you're not going to have the same results as if you're going to start it in San Francisco. So the question that I want you to answer and think about is, are you open to relocating and operating in a new city, a new state, or a new country perhaps? That's rarer, but you need to decide what you want. Or do you need the business to be in a local area for personal reasons? For me, it was my wife saying where I could and could not operate. And your spouse will certainly have a big say in this decision. The fourth search dimension that we're going to consider is the market and demographics. We want to consider the local market and demographic factors in play. Some businesses thrive in certain locations due to population density, economic conditions, or consumer preferences. If you think about, for example, certain foods like Japanese sushi, that's not going to thrive in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. You're going to do better in a big city. And there's, that's just one example, but there's other industries like that where you need to have a certain population density and a certain population breakdown for it to make sense and for it to thrive. So you need to consider and answer, will the business have access to the right customer base, workforce, and suppliers in your chosen area? And does this existing business already have that in play, or is that something you're going to have to build? It's always easier if the business has those things in place initially, and sometimes you'll have to narrow your search down to where the opportunities are, not where you wish they were. The next filter search criteria is revenue and profitability. What are your revenue expectations? Have you defined what you want your target revenue range to be? Are you looking for a high revenue growth business? Or are you looking for something with stable profits? Or are you open to something that's a bit smaller that requires reinvesting to see that growth? And you're going to need to answer, how much revenue is the business currently generating, and how much growth do you anticipate after acquisition? How much growth do you want to have? How much growth is available? And what do you have to do to get that growth? What's going to be the right mix of those factors for you and your family? Next up is profit margins and cash flow. We all know that revenue is not the whole story when it comes to running a business and buying the right one. You want to be sure that you're evaluating the business's profit margins and cash flow to ensure it can generate the right amount of profits to meet your financial goals. That's why we talked about that earlier in this course. The question that you need to answer then is, does the business have healthy profit margins, or are you willing to take on a low margin business with potential for improvement if you put in the time, the effort, and the money? In addition, we're going to consider the industry and the growth potential. There are certain industry dynamics that are worth thinking about. Some industries are more competitive or regulated than others are. You want to be clear about the level of competition that exists, regulation, and the market saturation that you're comfortable in dealing with. So the question here becomes, are you looking for a business in a highly competitive market, or would you prefer one with less competition and more stability? There are some people who prefer a business that has high moats and barriers to competition, and they're the only game in town, whereas other people are more comfortable operating in a business environment that's highly competitive. It's something they're used to, and they're going to be able to know how to make sure that business thrives regardless of those competitive pressures. So you're going to need to think through which is more comfortable for you, or is there something in the middle that'll make more sense? And finally, growth potential. It is absolutely essential to assess the business's future potential for growth. You need to think through whether the industry has room for expansion. Are there opportunities to introduce new products and services or enter new markets? Or is the business you're looking at really as big and good as it's ever going to be? The question that you're going to need to answer is the business well positioned to grow, or will it require a really significant overhaul to compete in the marketplace and become something new and different, and something that's going to generate a higher ROI than has historically been true? So there's a lot to think about here in this chapter, and we've covered a lot of different types of search criterias. But when you're talking to different brokers, or whether you're doing your internet search alone, or you're going down another path that we'll discuss later, you're going to need to be able to articulate each of these points, because these questions are going to come up over and over again, and you need to be clear on where you stand and why.